Hey, how you doing, people? This is a Dougie Stone Radio podcast. The Dougie Stone podcast going out on Mixcloud, on the station, and also on Spotify. So if you found us on any of those platforms and on iTunes, please subscribe for any updates. It's been a while since I produced a dedicated podcast, and that's because I've been busy with the radio station. But anyway, we're back with the podcast because we do podcast all our shows, so they are my podcasts. But this specific podcast has took a little bit of a holiday, but I'm back. And this one's a special. This is a special. This is all about, it's not an interview, it's all about, we're starting off in the new year, 6 reasons why podcasts are a killer life hack. And that's what I'm going to take you through, because lots of people out there have heard of podcasts, don't know what they are, don't know if they should be doing them, wonder what all the buzz is. So anyway, sit back, relax, and let's go through these 6 reasons why podcasts are a killer life hack. I've also produced this as a blog on dougiestoneradio.com, so go and check that out, check our blogs out. And if you want to contact me, just send me an email, contact@dougiestoneradio, that's DUGYSTONE, radio.com. And this podcast has been sponsored by The Humble Entrepreneur, another great podcast you need to check out. But anyway, let's get right to it. So a lot has been written about how much millionaires and billionaires, if you ask Trump, read. They need to read to expand their knowledge of the world and extract new ways of thinking, predicting trends, staying ahead of the curve, as it were. And that's why they do a lot of reading. They assimilate a lot of information, these very well successful people. Yeah. So as an example, Warren Buffett is said to read 500 pages a day. 500 pages a day. In some book, that'd be a book, wouldn't it? That'd be a book a day. So you can just imagine all that data's consuming. But no matter how much for me, I might want to read a book on this year's best, this best list. My life just needs set up to spend hours every day, curled up, sat reading a book. And probably you as well. If you listen to this, you're probably the same. And it holds true for a lot of people and small business owners. They've not got the time. Yes, they will read, but can't consume that much information. So anyway, why podcasts? So podcasts have moved to the very top of the list of the best life hacks of recent years. Podcasts are entertaining, and sometimes they are, and educational. Sometimes they're not. Depends on it. All at the same time. They're also accessible in most situations. Think about it. Come on, think about it, people. If you are traveling, waiting for a meeting, or just working in the garden, you've got a smartphone, a set of earbuds or earphones, and you're consuming information at the same time. You cannot sit down and read. Does that make sense? So the great thing about a podcast is if you're out and about anywhere, if you're driving, you're on the commute, you might want to be reading a book, or you might be, like, say, doing the gardening. Well, it's great. Get your podcast in. If you want a bit of a break from the music or learn something, what better way than you doing what I do now? Yeah. So we all like statistics, don't we? So Ofcom in the UK reported in 2019 the following: around 7.1 million people in the UK now listen to podcasts each week. That's 1 in 8 people. And it's an increase of 24% over the past year. So that trend is going to increase. If you look at the stats in the States, it's something like 44%. It's millions of people tuning to podcasts. And it's more than doubled over the past 5 years. Ofcom research also found that half of listeners have joined podcasts in the last couple of years. So there's more and more people creating them, there's more people listening to them. Right, so the 6 things that we're going to cover. This is the first one. Does your brain interpret listening the same way as reading? Does that make sense? So if you read a book and you listen to a podcast, does your brain absorb the information in the same way? Well, a simple answer to this is yes. A great example of this is a concept below, and I took it from an article by Book Riot, and it says, reading a physical book and listening to audiobooks are 2 different paths that lead to the same destination. Hey, who I thought of it? Bit like taking a car or a bus. Totally different transport, you get to the same place, don't you? Each creates different experiences and memories, but neither is better or worse than the others. Now, the people out there that are really into literature and writing and reading will say, oh, you can't absorb it the same. But don't forget, there's lots of dyslexic out there, like me, that find it easier to absorb things either visually or via audio. One reason why we started doing podcasting and we do the station, because there's no spelling involved. It's easier. It's easier for a lot of people to absorb. So number 2, all the information you need to know. So out there, the podcast, if you're looking to hide, it could be anything, couldn't it? You could be looking for entertainment, so you could be looking for comedy, so you can go and find a comedy one. And it could be you want to know about specific subjects. It might be social media, so you'll go and find a social media podcast, or it might be a financial podcast or an entrepreneurial podcast. There's loads of information. So podcasts are like blogs. Like bloggers, podcasters like to share their experiences. That's why I do this. I love to share it with you and cover a wide array of topics. There is probably a podcast out there about any subject you can think of. Just try it. Go and search it. The Apple Podcast stats reports show that there were 550,000 podcasts on the web in 2018. Today, there are an estimated 700, so three quarters of a million podcasts in the world. Spotify, which is great as well if you don't know about that, but Spotify now has podcasts on its platform, making it even more accessible for people to consume information on the go, in the office, or lying on a beach chair. Yes, you can. So my podcast, this podcast, the Dougie Stone podcast, goes out on iTunes. It goes on to various platforms, YouTube it'll go on to, but it also goes on to Spotify, which is great because more and more people are consuming music on Spotify. So to have podcasts on there, one platform, is brilliant. So don't ignore that. Number 3, using your time twice. We did mention it at the start a little bit, but in our busy world and our lives, being able to gain extra edge or gain time, multitasking or using our time, or using your time twice, has become the norm to most people. Most people want to use time twice, don't they? That's why you see people using the laptops when they're on the train or they're in a cafe. They're trying to use the time while they're doing something else. So whilst prepping your lunch or giving the car a clean, if you might clean a car, you might not own one, you can be finding the information you need on a particular topic and gain it by listening. So I said it before about doing gardening, but could be any task you're doing. It makes sense. So instead of listening to the latest track by your top artist, you can be learning something. But anyway, don't forget to tune into DougieStoneRadio.com. It's freaking global, baby. And if you've got a speaker, we'll talk about speakers in a bit, but just say, Alexa, open internet radio. Right, number 4 of our 6 things that we've got to talk about today, which is listening can enhance experience. Right. So regardless of how you read, most people skim articles or pages in books. You can find yourself skimming through, can't you? It's quite intense reading. However, in our human DNA, we are hardwired to listen to stories. We listen intently. The written word is in my view, it's a relatively new development in our evolution, isn't it? Really is. It's only been around for hundreds of years, hasn't it, really, in the current format we've got now. Stories. Well, stories have been with us since before the first printing press. So even cave dwellings shared information from a variety of things, didn't they? They drew on walls and they shared stories around campfires, and it's how they entertain themselves, and it's also how they pass information on to generation to generation. And if you go and find some of these tribes that are remote, they will still be passing information on through storytelling, won't they? So it can be involved dances, storytelling, and we tend to really listen to when someone's speaking. We connect to it. So when you're reading a book, you've put your own spin on that person's voice, their tone, what they're saying, how they're trying to get it over. So you interpret that through how you're reading. And unless you know that person, it's very difficult. You put your own voice in there. Now, when you listen to a podcast like you listen to this, you are listening to my voice. You'll either like it or you'll hate it, won't you? And you'll connect with me. You should feel like I'm just talking to you. So I'm imparting some information onto you, which should interest you. Yeah. If you're still with us, great. Yeah. Does that make sense? It's much better to listen to someone and someone else's perception will come through and you'll connect. So if you're a business connecting with your customers via via voice is fantastic because it's a storytelling, yeah, and you get to know that person. You should be able to imagine me now. You might not even know what I look like. Go and find me on Facebook, but you don't even know how I'm dressed, and you'll put your own perception on how you dress. But if I said to you, I'm sat in a log cabin, it's very cold at the moment, so I'm sat here with a body warmer on, which is a Suzuki One Sports one. I've got a baseball cap on, and I'm all cozy, yeah, in the cabin. Wonderful, lovely outside. So you might have a vision of me rather than you reading it in the book. Anyway, I digress. So, number 5 of our 6 things is voice-activated and new technology. So, unless you've been hidden under a rock, over the last few years, there's been a bit of an explosion of voice-activated devices. So you've got our favourite, or my favourite, is the Amazon Echo, the Dot. There's various sizes of them, and it's brilliant because what you can do with those devices is you can control your home, can't you? So if you've got a Hive heating, or you've got some security or whatever, you can tell that piece of equipment to turn your lights on, turn your heating up, whatever, yeah, order you something or play you some music. But what you can also do is activate a podcast. So this is what I wrote about this bit. So voice activated speakers and technology, they're being fitted into cars and other devices like TVs. So which means it's even easier for people to find and absorb a podcast. So if that podcast is on a platform like Spotify, dead easy to get hold of it. You can ask Alexa to play your podcast on an Amazon speaker, or even from a smartphone. If you've got the app on your phone in your vehicle, you can connect it to your vehicle and you can listen to your the Alexa. Yeah, we all call it Alexa, but it's, the Alexa's the actual thing, not the speaker. It's the actual person, a bit like Siri, isn't it? It's not a person, obviously. It's automated, isn't it? It's a robotic voice. Anyway, so do you get that? And what we've seen, and this is why we really got on board with the whole Alexa and the Google and the speakers and things like that, voice activated, is we see more and more people consuming data, consuming audio via podcasts and via smart speakers and smart speaker apps. And in a few years, we see DAB in cars going similar to the way that your FM has gone to. So people will move over because you can be listening. And this is really cool. You can be listening in your house to your favourite podcast or your favourite station. You get in your car, connect it on Bluetooth or with a connector, and you can carry on listening to whatever you're listening to. And some of the more modern cars now are coming with apps fitted. They're all coming with the apps fitted. So you'll be able to just activate it straight away. You can voice activate on you as time goes on. So what I've just said to you there, back in 2017, Dougie Stone Radio, we saw this trend, and it's why we can now say, Alexa, open internet radio. That'll find our station, which is fantastic. And we've recently launched Dougie Stone Under, which is for the Southern Hemisphere. Now that one, you just say, Alexa, open freaking global, and it'll find it and play it. We've got another one that says, Alexa, open Dougie Stone Radio. So you can see that's quite easy for someone trying to go and find our app. If they've got a speaker, they can see it. So we've also realised that it's not always convenient to tune in. So when a show is, it's not always easy to connect and listen. So, that's very silly of me, isn't it? It's not always you're able to connect, say, when there's a show on, say, at 6 o'clock on a Monday. You might not be able to listen to it, but it might be a show you want to tune into. So we podcast all our shows. And that's what I've been working on for the last year or so. We podcast all our shows onto a platform called Mixcloud, but we now put that podcast from Mixcloud onto our website. So if you went to dougiestoneradio.com and look for the podcast feed, you'll find all the podcasts from that week's shows, and they're in date order, and you can go back to whichever ones you want, and it keeps it all central. And that's another great thing. If you're producing content, you can get your podcast on your website and share it from there. Yeah, there we go. We'll probably cover a bit more of that in a bit. Well, number 6, it depends if you're a consumer or a producer. So most of us, what I say. So podcasts are a pretty vital life hack, not just for consuming of the information, which all of us do, don't we? We all consume information in one format or another, but also for people creating content like us and potentially like you. And if you're creating content, it's to get your message across which really connects with your target audience. Yeah, really connects to it because you've got that person. Remember what I was talking about earlier before about stories. You've got that personal connection with your listener. So podcasts don't negate the need for blogs, videos, Facebook Lives, posts, and social media, and any other platforms you can think of. YouTube. They just add to it. Yeah, because there might be sometimes when people want to sit down and watch Facebook Live that you're creating, or they might want to sit down and watch a video that you've created because it's a vlog, a video log of you doing some activity. That makes more sense than it's a bit like me trying to explain what I'm doing in the studio now. You've got to visualize if you've had it on video. So we're not saying, or I'm not saying, podcasts negate all them. You just add to your marketing strategy because people will consume your data and consume your content in different formats depending what they're doing. Some people quite like to sit down and read a blog, so we create blogs. Some people don't like to read blogs, but they like to listen to audio, so we create a podcast. Does that make sense? So it's not above all the others. Don't stop doing your other things. It's to add to it. But the great thing about it, if I told you about before, this podcast has been generated from the blog that I wrote. So I've not had to rewrite this. It's already content that I've already created. And I could also go away and now create a Facebook Live on it or a YouTube video. Yeah. So this is what you need to do about another way of using your time twice. It's taking the content that you've created and using it to create other content or little snippets. So, but for business, what does this all mean? So what does it all mean for your business in terms of profit? Does it make sense from a financial prospect? Well, let's look at some stats again. So there's an average of 2 million podcasts are registered by Google. 54% of podcast consumers say they think about buying products that are advertised. People are more likely to buy your product or service if they've listened to your podcast. And that's in the stats. It's not just me saying it. Businesses spent something like, well, this is in dollars, nearly 500 million on podcast advertising in 2018. And brands that advertise their products and services on business podcasts enjoy an average of 14% rise in purchase intent. People genuinely connect more, spend more money when they've listened to you and you've demonstrated what you do on a podcast. It's fantastic. And this is the killer fact for you. MailChimp, the MailChimp, the automated emailing platform, that exploded when it was advertising on a podcast many, many years ago. And it just went nuts from that. So because people was listening to a very popular podcast, and that's how they really hit the market and everyone become aware of them. So never underestimate it. Never underestimate. It's a bit like this podcast. It's been sponsored, like I said at the start, by the Humble Entrepreneur. Go and check him out. Humble Entrepreneur, great podcast, and he's got lots of experience in business. So just go and have a look for it. So now he's a sponsor, so it's on our website. Just go and check that out. So in summary, what can we talk about? Podcasting are defining how people consume information and also are fast-growing market sector that companies are adopting to really connect with their existing or target customers. It's vital, honestly it is. In our busy lives, it's an ideal platform for consuming information on the go and it is effective. It's as effective as reading. It's as effective as reading it going to the same destination but two different paths. Yeah. And the information is abundant and also it's more engaging as it taps into our human DNA for stories. We love stories. We do. We adore them, don't we? Just think about it. When you sit down and you listen to someone speaking or you go out with a few friends and people start talking about things, and it's normally the things that are most interesting are the stories. They might have a bit of humour in there, but we do really connect with the stories. A final note for companies thinking about, like you, if you're a company out there, if you're not a company out there, it doesn't matter. Oh, I'd love to do a podcast, but I don't know where to start, or it sounds mega expensive and I don't have the budget for that. That's interesting. That's what I heard quite a lot. How much is it going to cost? It's going to be expensive. Oh, I won't be able to do it. Well, this is not a sales pitch, but if anyone's out there, well, what we do as part of the station is we turn ideas into audio. It's one of our taglines. So we turn ideas into audio. We run both class-based courses and we also run more one-to-one courses. So if you're in the UK, people can come to me in the Midlands, near Coventry, and also people can go down to Bristol for Brimo and we can train each other. But we also do courses, classroom courses. So regarding the cost, right? Regarding the cost, well, what we do, what we teach people to do, is we use free editing software, which can be used either on a Mac or a Windows base or a PC. Because what you could do, there is tools on both platforms, but we try to standardize it, and we use a system which we can use on both, which is free to use, and we also start off by using free hosting, because what we say to people is give it a go, get into it before you start investing in a monthly subscription for hosting, which fires it off all over. There's an advantage of having the paid subscription, but we use a system called Mixcloud, which is free to use. You can put your content on there, and it gets your podcasting, it gets you out there, and you can use those links. So we teach. So what do people need? They need a computer, they need a set of headphones, and they need a microphone. You can start off by recording on your computer, but you won't get the same quality. So you can be starting from, well, say less than £100 to get you rocking. If, like me, you advanced, and what I ended up doing was buying a little mixer. So I'll cover that on another show. But a mixer basically just takes audio in and from all different sources, and then puts it into another source, like your recording system. It's got some great advantages. So yeah, that's all you need. So even if you went to a mixer and a microphone, less than £200. What's that? I don't know, in dollars, $350 something. You can be up and running. So you can start off from a very little small budget with just a microphone, 50, 60, 70, 80 quid, right through to you can spend thousands. But we've done all the research on a lot of stuff, and we've also made the mistakes. So that's what our benefit is to people. So where are we? So if you want anything, information about what we've been talking about, just drop us a line, contact@DougieStone Radio. That's DUGGYSTONE radio.com, or it'll be in the show notes. You can check out our one-to-one courses, and you can check out our other courses online. I hope you found this information interesting, and it's got you thinking more about, should I go and find some more podcasts? If you're obviously listening to it, you're on a list of podcasts, but if you're out there and you are thinking, well, actually, I've got a message, or I've got my products and service that I'd like to get out to a wider audience in a different format, then really think about podcasting. Really think about it, because it does have some benefits. So the 6 killer life hacks were, do you remember? Does your brain interpret listening the same way as reading? Yes. Just a different destination. The same destination, different way to get there. Number 2, all the information you need. Loads and loads of information out there on the internet, on podcasts, on all the different platforms. You'll be using your time twice. So you can be doing something, an activity, and consuming information and training, developing yourself. Listening can enhance the experience, because, like I said, it's you're getting the person speaking to you. So we love stories, don't we? Number 5, voice activating your new technologies. So we've got new technologies out there. You've got the Spotify, you've got the technologies going to cars, you've got the voice activated speakers, the Google, the Alexa Open Internet Radio, boom. Yeah, and to obviously the last one, number 6, if you're a consumer or a producer. So if you're a producer and you've got a business and you want to produce a podcast, great way to enhance what you already do. You reuse your stuff from your videos, or create blogs from your podcast. You can use what you've already got. You probably think, oh, I don't know what to talk about. Well, if you've created any blogs or any posts or any Facebook Lives in the past, go and look at them, reuse them, turn them into a podcast. Absolutely brilliant. Great way to connect to your customers. So, like I say, if you want to connect with us, go to DougieStoneRadio.com, DUGGYSTONE radio.com. Listen to the station 24/7. Drop me an email, contact@DougieStoneRadio.com. And if we can, we'll try and help you. Thanks to the humble entrepreneur, Robert Terry, for sponsoring this podcast. Thanks for listening. Please share it, and please subscribe. Anyway, until next time, I'm out of here, people.